Welcome to the Elevated Edit podcast. I'm your host, Blaklee Ramsey, and the goal of this podcast is to discuss all things personal development, wellness, and the art of editing your life in an elevated way. From mastering morning routines to mastering your mindset, we're going to sift through the noise and empower you to take elevated action. Make sure you catch the show notes for all the details. Enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Elevated Edit podcast. Today, we're going to dive into one of my favorite subjects and something that will really be the cornerstone of almost every topic that we will discuss moving forward in this show, and that is taking elevated action. So with elevated action, we are taking regular action a step further, and we are adding a higher level of intention. We are finding a balance and a thoughtfulness that allows us to truly move the needle with joy and passion in a sustainable way that allows us to be consistent over time. We're avoiding burnout. We are creating with joy. We're saying no way more often, and we are having a lot of fun along the way. So, as always, we're going to start with a personal example. For years, I would run through this same cycle. I would have this great idea. I would spend a lot of time planning and researching and making these very detailed lists. And I would fill notebooks with ideas and plans down to the very last detail. I would have charts and graphs and spreadsheets. And I would tell myself, okay, I'm almost there. I need to work on this a little bit longer. And I would be really proud of myself and really excited of everything that I had accomplished so far. And then things would just fizzle out because I never felt like I got it quite right. I never felt like my project or my idea was perfect. And what I didn't realize at the time was that I was telling myself I was striving for perfection. Okay, I was telling myself I didn't want to put anything out into the world until it was the best. I was giving myself this very false sense of confidence because I convinced myself that the reason my ideas were not coming to full fruition was some external reason. You know, the market was saturated. There was too much competition. It wasn't the right timing. But in reality, all of those were just excuses, and they were a way for me to glamorize my procrastination and to glamorize my self-sabotage. And in the end, I was the only person that was holding myself back. And, you know, it's kind of complicated because it was almost a twofold issue that I had to work on. One was my subconscious mind knew that I was about to make a big change in my life, and it didn't want to change. You know, it was comfortable where it was. And so it decided to do everything in my power to hold me back. And this isn't something to get down about. It is literally biological. You know, at one point, this helped our ancestors. They stayed where they were warm. They stayed where there was plenty of food. They stayed where there was shelter. They stayed where there was comfort, and they were comfortable, and that allowed them to live. So wanting to be comfortable really is second nature to us. But in our modern world where there is so much abundance, it can really hold us back if we let it. And the second part of the issue was that I wasn't disciplined enough to fight through the noise and stick to the promises that I made to myself. And so you take these two issues, I wasn't disciplined enough, and I was allowing my subconscious mind to really take over. And both of these issues were really hard for me to overcome. And look, I'm not going to pretend like it was easy or like it was a walk in the park. I've had to do a lot of really ugly work this year, and I've had to confront a lot of things head on that were extremely uncomfortable. And there have been a lot of times this year where I felt really lost and honestly really scared. But through the self-work, I have looked at action in a completely different way in 2024. And when I think of elevated action, it is something that is very intentional, and it comes from a place that is very balanced because there is a place for thought and research. thought and research is very important. And I love this quote from Dwight Eisenhower, and I think that it really rings so true here. He says that plans are nothing, but planning is everything. And planning really does, it allows you to feel confident, and planning kind of gives you the map to begin your journey. But I love that he states that plans are nothing, because so many people get one plan in their head and they don't allow themselves to be flexible, and they don't allow for things to unfold organically in front of them. And when whatever it is doesn't go according to plan, they just give up because they go, well, the plan didn't work. And so I love that he says plans are nothing, because we do have to practice planning, but being inflexible and sticking to such a rigid plan can sometimes hold us back. So I've been very diligent this year about not getting caught up in the plans. Yes, I'm still taking planning very seriously, but I'm also leaning into that elevated action. I'm getting the ball rolling before I feel 100% ready, and I'm really allowing myself to learn as I go, which, not gonna lie, is honestly really scary for me. I am not someone who likes to look dumb, or stupid or underprepared, but I have really gone for it with certain things this year, and I have allowed myself to sit in that uncomfortable place where I do kind of feel dumb, and I do feel stupid, and I do feel underprepared. And something beautiful that has come out of all this, and that I've realized, and it's not going to sound beautiful at first, okay? But if you let it soak in for a minute, you will really feel the beauty of it. But one thing I've realized is that nobody is really thinking about you as much as you're thinking about yourself. And nobody really cares about you as much as you care about yourself. And yes, I know on the face that sounds awful, but when you really sit in it, it gives you so much freedom. And for me, it really has been freeing to go, okay, you know what? If I fall flat on my face, nobody really cares. And I love that. I love that has kind of been, the message of my journey is nobody really cares. So just do what you want to do. But for a while now, I've been a huge advocate of the phrase execution over perfection. If you've sat on a board with me, if you work with me, you have probably heard me say the statement, execution over perfection, because there really is power in taking that initial action. Action creates more action. And so taking that first step is always the most pivotal. Mark Twain said, the secret to getting ahead is just getting started. And I think it's easy to sit there and judge. And I can say this because I have been in this boat where it's easy to sit there and judge other people that are doing what you want to do and they're crushing it in the space that you want to be in. And it's easy to sit there and say, oh, well, I could do a better job than them, or I actually know more than them, or I could do that if I just put my X, Y, and Z out there. But actually doing it, actually taking the action and doing the thing, that is what takes guts. And yes, those people might not be as qualified as you, but they are going to be way ahead of you regardless, because they have taken that first step. They've taken that first action. They took the action, they put themselves out there. And once you take that first step, things really, truly start to fall into place. Taking that elevated action that has thought and preparedness, but is still ready to go, and ready to go before it feels 100% ready, that is what is so crucial to changing your life and honestly living your dreams. And with saying all of this, I want to extend some grace, and I want you to give yourself some grace as well, because this is all way easier said than done. It is a struggle that everyone goes through, and fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, you are the only person who can change the trajectory of your own life. For me, I like to look at it as a very fortunate thing because my future is not in anyone else's hands except for mine. And so it really is up to you, even though this is hard and it's not easy to do, it is up to you to face these things head on. And you deserve to give yourself the gift of courage and discipline so that you can see your dreams through. And so you can use elevated action to guide you through this struggle. And y'all know me, I love action. I love some action tips. So I'm going to give you some tips to get started. And these are not new ideas. They're probably things you've heard 1,000 times before, but I want to use them in the context of this discussion to really round out the conversation. And I want you to look at your goals in a new way. And I want you to soak these tips in so that you can really start moving the needle of your own life and really start moving the needle of your goals. So we've got 3 action tips. And like I said, they are simple, but they're not easy. And you'll see what I'm talking about here in a minute. Okay, so step 1, action step 1, you're going to get clear on what you're trying to accomplish. And I know that sounds so simple, so easy. You're like, okay, check, got it. But I think this is where most people get caught up without even realizing it, and they never get past this step. So let me give you an example. We're going to use the example of wanting to start a blog. So you may think the first step in starting a blog is to learn all of the logistics, all of the marketing tips, all of the Pinterest strategies and SEO and all the things, which is all very important. But it is very easy to get lost. And before you know it, you spent 2 weeks researching how to promote a blog and you have not actually moved the needle on your blog. You know how to do the SEO and do all this and do that, but you still haven't written a blog post. And then you never do. So we're going to try looking at it from a different perspective. And the very first thing that you need to do is get super crystal clear on what you're trying to accomplish. So we're going to stay with the blog example, and we're going to ask ourselves, who is our target demographic? What are we trying to accomplish with this blog? So don't just say, I want women to read my blog. You're going to get super granular with this to the point where you can say, and I'm going to give you a very specific example. So this is kind of marketing related, but I just want to show you the difference between a goal that is not very clear and a goal that is crystal clear. So goal 1 is I want women to read my blog. Goal 2, and see the difference here. I want my target demographic to be women with children between the ages of 3 and 6 who are married and both parents work outside of the home. I want these women to live in urban areas and I want them to have a passion for decorating their home. I want them to use my blog as a way to stay current with urban decorating trends that are childproof and keep their home clutter-free for their busy lifestyles. So do you see the difference in clarity? And you can get this granular with everything, any kind of product, any kind of service, any kind of content. You can get so specific on what you're trying to accomplish that it is easy for you to take immediate action. You're not confused. You're not having to sift through all the noise. You're not having to learn the fluff and go back and forth and do all the things. It's still hard work, but you have a better map. You have a better direction of which way you're going. And that confidence and that clarity will help you accomplish your goals. So action step number 2. We're going to make a timeline and we're going to stick with it. There is nothing that motivates me more than a good timeline. And yes, you do need to be flexible, especially when you're starting out with a vague goal that you don't really know where it's going to go and how it's going to end up. You need to be flexible, but I think that having a timeline and having some kind of rubric for these are my expectations for how I'm spending my time. These are my expectations for what I'm hoping to accomplish by X date. I think that having that timeline will help you move forward because you'll be able to gauge where you're at. And it won't be I want to start this blog at some point. It's, I want to start this blog in 2 months. And that kind of puts enough pressure on you that it really allows you to keep moving forward. And I want you to be honest about your timeline. I don't want you to rush yourself. I want you to kind of sit in the creativity, but I don't want you to sit in the creativity so long that you overthink everything and you never actually get anything done. So that's action step number 2. Make a timeline, stick to it. Okay, and number 3 is going to sound like the easiest one, and it's going to be the hardest one for you to do. I promise it is. You're going to allow a few minutes in your day for self-reflection regarding your goals. And it can be as little as 3 to 5 minutes. If you got the time, you can do 30 to 45. But honestly, 3 to 5 minutes is probably all that you're going to need. And in these few minutes, you're going to be really honest with yourself, which is a really hard thing to do. You can hurt your own feelings being honest with yourself, but that's okay. You're not going to be perfect. You're not expecting to be perfect. You're not expecting to have it all figured out. But you're going to have these little mini meetings with yourself every day. You're going to be candid. You're going to be honest. You're going to be raw. And you're really going to take the time to gauge and time audit and say, am I moving the needle forward, or am I just doing busy work? Am I actually doing things that are helping me accomplish my goal, or am I just doing things to make myself feel good and to make myself feel busy? And taking these few minutes to just sit in the quiet and think about your goal, think about your specific goal that you set, and really just kind of marinating in it and letting the ideas flow to you, that is going to eliminate that creativity block, and that is going to be monumental for helping you move forward with your goals. And it's going to get you out of that procrastination pit and out of that area of self-sabotage that you may be sitting in. And so those are it. Like I said, they're very simple. They're not necessarily easy. So I'm going to repeat them one more time. You're going to get clear on what you're trying to accomplish. You're going to make a timeline, and you're going to stick to it. And you're going to allow a few minutes in your day for self-reflection regarding your goals. Now, if you're like me, you love a good checklist. And so you can head over to the Instagram page, the Elevated Edit Podcast. You can click the link in the bio, and there will be a link for a free Elevated Edit checklist. And this checklist is hopefully going to be a very helpful tool that you can use so that you can accomplish your goals and edit your life. And hopefully this checklist will help you avoid burnout so that you can create with joy and you can say no more often and you can have fun along the way. Thanks for joining me today, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to the Elevated Edit Podcast. I hope you found today's episode inspiring and full of actionable tips. Don't forget to check out the show notes for all the resources and links mentioned. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Follow us on social media for more updates and inspiration. Until next time, keep growing, glowing, and elevating your life. See you soon.